I'm Joe and this is Scout. We're going to talk about what happens when a horse starts developing pain in this region. Usually you find the horse will kick out or buck when being asked to change into a faster gait, either to trot or lope. A lot of times you will be able to feel tension in this area. You can actually see the rise in the lumbar area. And with this particular horse, he's not particularly sensitive about it, but you can see the rise in the area. And we might get a slight reaction of him looking back at me, or we might not. There, his head came up as I worked on that particular spot. So that kind of pinpoints where the pain is. To kind of relieve the pain, I don't recommend working on the horse if you haven't had a vet take a look at it and make sure that there's no damage to any of the vertebrae, any of the structures in here. But once you know that there's no bone damage or vertebrae damage, then you can definitely do some of this work yourself. I prefer to work on them in a situation where they're free to move around a little more than across ties, but weather wasn't permitting today, so hopefully we won't be fidgeting too awfully much. The first thing you want to do is find the most sensitive spot. It'll usually be, they'll either flinch when you touch it, or maybe you'll feel it's tighter or raised. You put your fingers on it, press, and hold for about 30 seconds. You can see he's dropping his hip, which indicates that he's not particularly comfortable. So it probably is a pretty good spasm in the muscle. After 30 seconds release, that allows the blood to come back into the muscles, brings in nutrients, gets rid of a lot of the waste materials that are being stored in those muscles. And you can do that again. You can see he's dropping his other hip. I'm going to push on him a little bit and ask him to keep his weight even. And back on that area. If he won't stand quietly for the pressure, you can just move along that muscle in the direction of the hair to kind of lengthen and relax that muscle area. You want to do this evenly on both sides. They may have more spasms on one side than the other, but you definitely don't want to leave one side tight and tense and relax the other, because that just creates more problems. So I'm going to move to the other side and work on the spasm he was reactive to. You can see his head comes up when I get to that spot, and he actually tries to avoid it somewhat. Once he's standing quietly, then I'll put more pressure. And release. And rub. Now, this horse is not in a particularly great amount of pain. You might find one that is particularly painful will move quite a bit more, or will stand quietly and lick his lips and relax and tell you that it feels really good. Once you feel these muscles are starting to relax and soften up, then you want to work your way down the rump. Now the safest position is to be outside of the hind legs if you don't know whether or not your horse is going to kick. You want to work this muscle group between the bones. You have the hip bone here and the backbone here. This muscle group right here is where you get some tension. And you just massage it straight with the hair. If you're going to massage in circles, you don't want to move against the hair, you just want to move your hand around in circles. That's good for any knots that you find. But if the muscles seem to be fairly flat and smooth, you can just work with the hair and use quite a bit of pressure. with a horse I trust that's not going to kick me, I'll stand directly behind them. I'll put pressure all the way down the length of his hamstrings is what this muscle equates to. You can see he actually rocks forward with this. I'd like him to stand square while we're doing it. He tends not to do that very well. What's happening when we start working with these muscles and these begin to relax, they relax the pressure on these muscles, which relaxes the pressure on the lumbar area. These muscles here are very flat and thin, so they tend to spasm more, but they don't have as much muscle mass to distribute that. So if you can get your horse to actually rock forward with this pressure, that means that his back and his hips are moving more freely and he is relaxing. That should help to relieve his pain.